Welcome to the Ancient Way. I know every guest that we have, we always introduce them as like, today we have a very special guest. Well, we have another special guest today. Daniel Turner, DT. I mean, yeah.
Glad to be here.
Friend, brother, pastor.
The big man on campus, but that's only because he's tall.
Yeah, Padre. Daniel, welcome to the Ancient Way podcast.
Right.
Well, we always start our episodes with a question. And like next season, we may change it to something else. But here it is. Do you believe in life on other planets?
I don't disbelieve in life on other planets.
Cool.
That was very politically correct the way you just said that.
No, and so my dad worked for NASA growing up, and he retired from NASA. And so Nicole, my wife, used to always, every time she'd come, she'd want to ask him, what's up with the aliens? You know what I mean? They'd ask that question.
Yeah.
And my dad would always just kind of play it like, I don't really know.
Oh.
It's pretty big out there, and all this. But yeah, I mean, if you just read the Bible, there are so many other beings that aren't fully like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just, like read Ezekiel or something like that. And you're just like, these things aren't, human really,
Yeah.
a lot of them. And I know a lot of it's symbolic as well, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, there's something extra dimensional, whether it's on other planets or not, quite well could be.
Yeah.
Maybe veiled.
Yeah.
Dimensionally. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, if we could listen to country music right now, or we could listen to rap music, or, whatever
Frequency.
station you can
Yeah.
plug into.
Yeah.
And maybe we just haven't fully figured that out, nor maybe we won't. I'm not sure, but there's that. I always used to love starting messages with the Hebrews 11. In the beginning, when it talks about faith, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But then it goes on and it says, by faith, the worlds were framed by the word of God. By
The
faith,
plural.
we believe that the worlds were framed by the word of God.
Yeah.
So that which is seen was made by that which is unseen. And I think that's 11:2 and 11:3 of Hebrews. But it's just like, that's basically saying that.
Yeah.
But it's also saying like this dimension, the worlds, the planets, our solar system was framed almost like two-dimensionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we see a picture of something on a two-dimensional canvas, it was framed by something. In other words, it's not that it's not real, but there's something on the outside of it that's more real that created it. I mean, that's what faith is. And, we joke around like Elon Musk believes we're probably living in a simulation or whatever, but that really is a biblical concept.
Yeah.
Not a computer simulation, but that there's something more real in the unseen on the outside.
Yeah.
That we don't see, but by faith we understand that it's there, and that causes faith within us to live in a certain way on the earth. And so that's kind of alien,
Yeah, for
and that's
sure.
our Bible, and our definition of faith.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I think if you zoom out, the picture's a whole lot bigger than it looks. And just knowing how the universe is continually expanding now.
Yeah.
It's like God said, "Let there be light," and it like continually expanded. Like that word, it's still going out. And the
That's
Hubble,
cool.
Hubble space telescopes taking pictures of stuff that's how many light years away from us.
For real.
Which is just like, it's hard for your mind to grasp moving at the speed of light for an entire year, and then you would get to something, and then do that for hundreds or thousands of light years. And there's planets, there's creation. So, I certainly wouldn't be surprised, for sure.
Yeah. Well, they just found on Mars, and there's one other planet, I'm not going to butcher that, but for sure on Mars, very similar symbolism that they have found throughout like all these other ancient civilizations.
Maybe like cave drawings?
Yeah, kind of like cave drawings, but
on
like
some rocks?
literally on a rock on Mars. Yeah.
Oh.
They have found it, which was like one of the 13 ancient symbols that are in every single civilization, whether it's in South America or in Europe or whatever. I was like, either somebody did it themselves or, you know, like
Yeah, like Elon Musk did that junk. Yeah, or or the Transformers up there or something. Yeah,
yeah,
something.
Well, that makes me think too, we're talking about, I guess, faith, but like things that are unseen. It's like when somebody has an idea or invents something, it's like, what's more real, the physical like invention or like the idea they had, like where they got it from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's more real? It's like that actually started in the unseen and they brought it to life or manifested it here.
Yeah. And if you think about that Hebrews 11, if you think about it in those terms,
mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, that would be to kind of lend credence to the fact that like, no, that which is in the unseen is more real than that which is in the seen. So you're manifesting it in this 3-dimensional space, but there's another dimension. There's a higher dimension.
Pulling it from somewhere.
That thing is already there somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like fully functional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, that scripture alone, but like the Bible, there's so much in it. Like a lot of places, like I grew up thinking like it stopped at like salvation, of like Jesus, paid the way for salvation. But even to me, it felt like he paid that, but he paid for the opportunity for me to work at it or to, I guess, walk through the salvation or to do good. He didn't like fully do it. He opened the doorway for me to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. That's what it always felt like to me. But like even just reading the Bible and stuff, it's like so much more that he paid for. And it's like written in there, like specifically. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, how come that's not, we don't accept that? Like, and like agreement, what we're in agreement with. It's like, are we in agreement with the Old Testament, like the Old Covenant? Or like,
of like,
what has actually fully been done?
Yeah.
But like even scriptures like that, it's like, I mean, I'd never heard it that way before, before you mentioned it, before I heard you say it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, it's in there. It's in everyone's Bible.
Yeah.
Hebrews 11:3 is not going away. And, it says what it means.
Yeah.
And Jesus came, that's the thing, he shows up. And it's like in John 1 when he's basically recruiting his disciples, calling them together. And he tells, what was it? Nathaniel was like really freaked out because Jesus knew something about him before he met him. Before you were under the fig tree, I saw you, right? Mm-hmm. John 1. And his mind is just kind of blown. And he's like, you're the real thing. You're the real deal. You're the Messiah. And Jesus says something in John 1:51 is like, you think that's impressive, but you're going to see greater things than that. You're going to see heaven opened.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. That's
totally.
What that faith is. It's like, hey, like there's a glimpse of the unseen, and it's not kind of like what even you were referenced, where a lot of people believe like, well, if I say this prayer, this sinner's prayer, then I'll get in when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Because I won't really be dead, whatever, however people grasp that. But it's more like, it's like, no, like you're going to see heaven open and the angels, the messengers, ascending and descending upon the Son of Man, is what he said in John 1:51. It's like, he's forecasting from the jump, like there's a portal, is what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Heaven's going to be torn open, and you're going to and it's going to start flooding the earth. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be upon me. And, third person, the Son of Man, talking about himself.
Yeah.
So strange, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to see it happening on me. And the messengers are us.
Yeah.
It's the people that through him are going to ascend and descend.
Yeah.
And that's because he didn't say descend and ascend. He said ascend and descend, which, which means it's like they're going to go up and they're going to come back down. They're going to go up and they're going to come back down. Or they're going to go in and they're going to come back out. All the symbolism of the temple, previously the tabernacle in the wilderness, they're going to go in, they're going to come out to the people. They're going to go into the hidden, the unseen, they're going to come out to the people. And they're going to release things from that place into this place. And it's going to make this place become like that place. Mm-hmm. It's going to take the temporary cap, the veil that's been set over the world, and it's going to honestly like make a mockery of it.
Yeah.
Like bring something that trumps what people consider to be reality into this dimension. Mm-hmm. And we know he was quoting, all these Jewish boys that are hanging around, just meeting him, young guys, and he's quoting their favorite, we call them Bible stories, but to them, this is like their X-Men. This is like their comic books. This is what they've been raised on. They understood Jacob's ladder. Jacob, who was ended up becoming named Israel. And, in Genesis 28, like he's quoting this dream that he had where he saw the angels ascending on a ladder while his head laid upon a rock, and God, literally the embodiment of God, who is Jesus, standing at the entrance of the portal. And so it's like, here comes Christianity from the jump off.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you guys are trash and you need me to fix you.
Yeah, it's not like that.
No, not at all.
Wow.
Never out of Jesus' mouth, not this way.
Well, the Lord's Prayer is what you're saying is making me think of, like, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's like Luke 11, like, would you teach us how to pray? That's what they say. And the first thing he says is, our Father who are in heaven. And like, that's it. Like, you said, Dad, okay. You want me to call this deity, you want me to call him Dad? Like, I don't know if I should do that. That's disrespectful, or maybe that's prideful for me to consider myself his lineage, his offspring.
Yeah,
it's like,
daughter.
No. That's the jump of the game. It's like, you're the beloved of God. You're his kids. Well, I'm a sinner. I'm all these things. It's like, no. That's not how he sees you. That's not how he saw the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was just so happy he was coming back. He ran and put his face to his neck and hugged him. Have you ever hugged somebody, put your face in their neck?
Yeah.
That's
it's
legit.
It's a little awkward, but yeah. But if you do, it's because it's like, there's freaking love there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is not
but you
like
feel accepted too. It's like,
it's like so much welcoming. You know, the prodigal son had a script he was going to come read back to his dad.
Yeah.
He's going to say, I'm a sinner. I'm not worthy to be called your son. Just make me your heart. He had a full-blown plan, which is the religious plan. You know, I'm going to be these things. I'm going to tell the boss what he was going to do. This is how the deal's going to work, because he's so ashamed. And his dad didn't even let him get it out. He said, I've sinned before you and before heaven. And that's all he got to say. Yeah. He got to own where he was, but the fact that he had turned was good enough, which is repentance. Like his dad was on him.
So good.
Gripped him. You know what I mean? And it's like, there was no shame. There was actually a party.
Yeah, through a
that
party.
happened for it. You know what I mean? Like, now wait a second now. Put on the best robe. Like, you got to clean them off first. Like, nah.
Yeah.
Put the robe on and put the ring on his hand.
Cool.
And,
I love that, because that is the foundation of Christianity. It's, you are the beloved, period. Like, there is no script that you have to give. Like, just acknowledge, take ownership of it, of like, yo, I was full blown in this other stuff, but like, and then just actually receive. Like, let him actually love you. Yeah. You know?
First and foremost.
Yeah. And he's communicating, and
totally.
And that's what he's communicating to the guys. Like, you're going to see something so much greater than this. You're going to have access because of this reality, this Jacob's ladder, this story that you've heard, which is true. It's our history. Your father, Jacob, your great ancestor, your Israel, who your nation is named after. I was like, but it's so much more. This is about heaven being brought to earth. Yeah. And like you said, our Father who's in heaven, hallowed be your name. In other words, that's another thing. God's name being made holy, because it's drugged through the mud so much. So it's like, there's a redemption of it by those who are in prayer and connection, that they manifest him in a way that is so contrary to this bipolar pagan deity that much of the world believes he is. This bloodthirsty, sun whipping God, and it's like, that's the point, hallowed be your name, like your name be exalted in such a way that people are like, oh my gosh, he's not who I thought. God is actually love. And it's not a bipolar love. It's real. Yeah. And then it's like, your kingdom come and your will be done on earth. Like what you're saying, it's just like, let's invade the family businesses. Let us invade this place. Yeah.
I love that. It's like, when you fully know that you're completely accepted and loved by God, you're wide open. Yeah. And it's like, everything can just flow out of you. Like, not one part of you is dammed up. Yeah. Like, there's no clog at all. And it's just like, everything gets released from heaven.
I don't even think you have to fully know it. Yeah. You just have you'd have to take a chance to believe it. Yeah. If you just think like, that could be the case, enough for me to communicate to him, he communicates to you.
It's really simple.
It's like, boom. Yeah. It's like the leper in the book of Mark, when he first shows up to him. It's like, if you're willing. Yeah.
It's
he
so
took a
simple.
chance if you're willing. I know you can, but it's like, oh, I'm willing, brother. Like, look, kid.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like, just give him that little space to fill it. Simple.
So many people. The lady that touched him, it was a garment. So many people. That's just a chance. Yeah. And he meets that. He comes after that. And it's like,
what I love about that story with the lady, the one who grabbed his garment? It's like, his first thing was a daughter. Like that was his word to her. And I had always read that he was looking around for who touched him, but I read it just yesterday and it like lit me up. No, he was looking for her. He wasn't looking around of like, what was it? He was like actually looking for her so he could call her for who she was, like daughter. Like it's no incident that he's just like, whoa, what happened to me? No, he was like full blown looking.
Left me.
Yeah. Oh, he knew that somebody got a hold of him.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And he was like, I'm coming to find you.
Yeah.
I want you to know.
Got a hold for who he was.
Yeah.
As well. She took a chance on who he was, which they all did.
Yeah.
You know, the centurion. But I haven't seen this great faith. Even in Israel, I haven't seen the great faith. Why? Just because the centurion said, you don't even have to come to my house. Just say the words because I have soldiers under me. Just like you got something under you. And it's like he looked past this Jewish rabbi that was becoming a healer, being known as a healer. He looked past that and thought, you're something else.
Yeah.
You can say the word and something will actually carry it. Like the angels were, he saw him for who he was. He saw through the costume of the Jewish rabbi.
Yeah.
A person is like, no, you're bigger than this.
Yeah.
And it blew Jesus' mind. Like, oh, I haven't seen this great faith. In other words, like you saw past the matrix.
Yeah.
You saw
he recognized
you saw
that.
the heaven.
He recognized the authority of heaven. And like even compared it to his own authority on earth. It's like, you have that.
It's like what he said to Nathaniel, like you will see the angels ascending and descending. I bet he saw it.
Yeah.
Like he actually saw those things ascending and descending. So he knew he could grab hold of it because if he saw it, he could have it.
Yeah.
And I think of even like with Jairus, like Jairus was walking. He was like, hey, come heal my daughter, my 12-year-old daughter. Right. And he's a king ruler of the synagogue, like one of the rulers of the synagogue. And it's like the woman with the issue of blood looked past, like she got out of the religious system. She wasn't concerned about what the system was doing. And these rulers, she just went for him.
She made him, and he had to take a pit stop on the way to the daughter.
Yeah.
Because that lady disturbed it, but it was okay.
Oh, yeah.
I just love it. It's like, just go after him, period. Like, get past the system and anything else. It's about him.
That's
him alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even from the get-go, Adam and Eve, their mandate of like, be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth, that's like bringing heaven to earth. It's like he hasn't changed.
Yeah.
He's the same.
The mandate's always the same.
It's always been the same. Yeah. There's been hiccups and stuff, but it hasn't changed his plan, his purpose.
I thought about that verse. We hear how beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news. And that being who proclaims peace and glad tidings of good things. And this being like this evangelistic prophecy in Isaiah 52 verse 7. And it's just like, but that is true evangelism.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey man, you're going to go to hell if you died right now. Do you know where you'd go?
Yeah.
You're going to go to hell. I'll tell you where you'd go. But if you say this incantation prayer and then join my club, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you change your life or anything else, you know what I mean? But it's like the feet that actually bring the good news. It says the kindness of God brings to repentance, brings people to repentance. And it's like, you think of the reality of the goodness of God.
Yeah.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. You know what I'm saying? Magnified. Clearly presented, be who you truly are, your person. And that is the feet that actually bring the good news.
Yeah.
And that articulation of like, yo, he's actually good. He's actually kind.
Yeah.
And he has good for you. He's not against you. He's for you. Take a chance on that.
Yeah.
That draws people to him. Like, I'll take a chance on that. I'll risk communication to him on that.
Yeah.
And it works. It's transforming.
Yeah.
It really is.
I like
it's
that.
exhilarating.
Yeah.
Like, it's not only just transforming. It's like this becomes an exhilaration life. You don't have to just manage things. It's like you can let it go and you can run.
Come alive.
Yeah, fully come alive.
That's what Anthony had said. The way that he worded it was like the kindness and the goodness of God inspires repentance. Like it inspires you. And it's not like I'm disgusting. Like I'm going to change now. It's like, I don't know. You see him and it lights you up and it's like destiny, purpose. It inspires you to be like him and to change.
And you were created in his image. That's the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
That's how this thing starts.
Yeah.
That's how man was created.
That's
on the
true.
sixth day of creation, or
Totally.
the sixth, however you look at that. And it's just like, hey, that's reality right there.
Yeah.
And so this lie that the serpent comes in like, well, eat this fruit and then you'll be like God and you'll know good from evil and all these things. It's like the answer to that was like, yo, I already am. I'm the one that's created in his image.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to get me to jump through hoops in order to gain something that I already have?
Yeah.
And that was the trap. That was the trick, you know, but and it was poison.
It's just even what you were saying about evangelism, like do these things, pray this prayer, then you can become saved. Then you can do this thing. And it's like, dude, that's not it. Like, that's again the tree. That's the knowledge of good and evil. All it is like, remember who you are. Like, connect to him, and it will bring remembrance.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that Proverbs that Steve threw out. You know, it's like, I think he said it's Proverbs 30 verse 4. But like, surely you know. He's talking about the Lord, the one who had ascended and descended. He's like, surely you know. And it just struck me of like, oh, surely you know him.
Yeah.
Like, you know him when you come. Like, if you connect, you'll remember that you've known him. And like, your true person will come to remembrance.
Yeah.
Well, Elder Steve hit us up with that one too.
He did.
Last
It was
week.
so good.
That he's got it, man.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you know, it is. That's why I think a lot of revelation when you learn something new in the Lord or in the Spirit, the things he's leading you into, it feels like a memory.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I remember that. I do remember
Feels
that.
like home.
That is the way it does. It's familiar, but it's full of good fruit. You know, it's the fruit of heaven. And it's like, okay.
Well, like, even evangelism, like what it's been turned into, it's like the more that you get to know him and you develop that relationship with the Lord, and then you display your true image of what you were created to be, you know, and to shine, like, then you start to love people. And then everybody that you encounter, you're seeing them the way that he sees them. And you have like this selfless, like pure love for them. And I mean, just things get presented to you. People just come in your path and you're able to like touch them and connect them to him.
Yeah. You don't have to run after it.
And then they begin to bear his image because they're seeking him and they're giving him space. And it's like, it's not like a, you know, spin your wheels and go save as many people as you can. It's just so natural and just, it's free. It's like freedom.
It's living your true identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole reflection of glory to glory that 2 Corinthians 3 talks about. It's like you see him without the veil of your face, then you'll reflect him. The more you actually know him, the more your life reflects him.
Yeah.
And who's it reflect him to? To yourself? No. It's meant to, it's heaven on earth. It's meant to reflect people to God.
Well, you don't even want it after yourself. Like, when you really see him for who it is, like, yourself is out of the equation.
Well, that goes back to the beginning of the Lord's Prayer, like, Dad, Son, like, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's what he says about me. I'm solid. Now I can love people. I can,
now I can actually be the full, like, or I can just like let heaven out. Like, I don't have to withhold anything.
I can be like him.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's beautiful, man.
It's the deal. It's a lot simpler than it's been made, for sure, and it's a lot more mystical. But even the revelations and even the mystical realm, I know you guys really dig that stuff, and I mean, I certainly do as well. But all revelations, even supernatural experiences, like he was saying in John 1:51 to his disciples, you're going to see this. They all have practical, a practical outworking.
Yeah.
Or things that can be walked out in the natural realm. They actually bear fruit, you know, in your life. You have an experience with the Lord, it marks you, but it actually bears fruit in your life. It changes you. It adds to you, you know, it leads you in some truth that maybe you didn't have before, or reinforces truth that, you know, you're learning in him, and it changes things. You know, that's kind of how.
Do you have a personal story of when you've seen this thing play out?
I mean, it's my whole life. It's all just Christianity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can you give us a story though?
I mean,
you've got a bunch of them on YouTube.
That's the only way that I know.
Right.
You know, it's the only way that I know in this life. And so
what about one of your like earliest realizations of it?
Well, I was raised around in a Christian church. My parents went to a Baptist church, but it wasn't I didn't know, but I guess it wasn't normal Baptist, because people there believe God talked. I don't know if everybody did, you know what I'm saying? But
definitely not.
Yeah. You're like, I wasn't there, but I guarantee you not everyone did. But, you know.
No, I'm like purebred Southern Baptist, so.
Yeah. You know. And so I didn't know the rules of it, you know, but I wasn't really all that interested in the Christian walk, you know. And I just wasn't into it. But I believed that there was reality there. And they'd have guest speakers sometimes, and they would talk about people heard God. And And sometimes as a kid, I think kids have a lot of discernment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can see, they have a good, a BS meter, you know what I mean? They can kind of, like, I don't know about, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd sit through services and somebody would come talking out their stuff. I wouldn't believe it or vibe it, you know. And then sometimes I'd be like, okay, I feel like this is real, you know. But I had dreams and stuff. I was one of those kids that had like night terrors when I was little and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like my parents would come wake me up and I'd have my eyes open. I'd still be in the dream freaking out. And then I'd kind of freak them out, you know, like what's wrong with this guy? You know what I mean? This little guy's freaking out. You know, there's not spiders all over the walls, man. Chill out, you know?
Yeah.
You know, Satan walking into my bedroom and stuff like this, demonic stuff. And some angelic too, you know what I mean? Sometimes I would have demonic beings come after me and, you know, the good guys would actually come and pick me up and run me away from them and stuff. Just really active dream life and stuff as a kid. But when I got into my upper teens and I wasn't living for the Lord at all, like zero, you know, wasn't involved with the youth group at all, you know, at the church at all. I just didn't really, it was kind of like a rule. You had to be at church on the weekends. So I would do it, but I just wasn't into it, man, at all. But the reality of this life started to really, it was almost like it was a cloud and the cloud just moved over me and moved into my room and just in my life. I couldn't really escape. Okay, this thing is real. And even then I would be trying to rationalize in my mind how I could believe these things, but still have my cake on the side and live, you know, the way I wanted to. And it was just, it was so gentle and it was just moving in my life. But there was the supernatural aspects of life started to come into my world that I had when I was a little kid. It started to come into my world fast and hard in my like late teens, 17 to 18 to 19 especially. And, you know, I had several supernatural encounters and dreams and visions, and I was woken by audible voices. Even when I'm in my first audible voice that I ever heard that awoke me up out of a dead sleep was, I think I was probably 17, and it said the word pray in front of my face out loud. And it was, I'm not gonna, like, even right now, this room, this padded room that we're in, you know what I mean? These headphones, it's like, if I close my eyes, I feel like you guys are like talking right in my ear. Yeah. Like we're very close. It takes a minute to get used to. Yeah. I'm old school, but it was like that. You know what I mean? The first audible voice that I heard,
the headphones,
that woke me up, and I didn't even know how to pray. Pray about the bad stuff that I do all the time. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's like, get up and pray. Like, what are you talking about? Somebody's talking to me. Like I know how to do what you're asking me to do. Yeah. Which is interesting. There's stuff to that, but you know, so that kind of stuff started happening. And I think the first thing, and you guys have heard a lot of my story, so we'd be here all day. But one of the main things that happened to me is I had a reconstructive surgery on my right foot. They had to take a bone out of my foot. And I was injured kind of late in my high school age, you know, going into my first year of college, and I was an athlete. And so I was redshirted and I was walking around with some crutches at a movie theater. And this man that I had seen in the Merritt Island Mall that day, a little black dude, he walked up to me and my friends at a box office and asked if he could pray for me. And this little guy he kind of spoke broken English to where I thought he was kind of like mentally retarded. Yeah. And I was too cool for school back then. So I just kind of tried to blow him off at first. Like, what happened to your foot? And I just kind of like, yeah, man, you know, stuff happens or whatever. I kind of just tried to blow him off. And then he tapped me again and he's like, hey, can I pray for you? You know, and kind of just broken, kind of mentally handicapped. And, you know, I couldn't understand if something was just wrong with him. But when he asked me to pray for me, I had been having so many supernatural experiences, especially with homeless people and people on the street. Me and my friends, they would just come up to me and start talking to me about stuff supernaturally all the time in malls, Daytona Beach, out in the dark, you know, just walk up to us. And so all my friends just thought it was just strange. And I knew God was moving into my life, but I didn't want to leave a lot of the stuff that I was in. Yeah. So I knew it was happening because I had a little bit of a grid for it, but I was just like, you know, oh, okay, you know. And so some of it, you know, I felt special. And, you know, like God was doing something, but I just didn't really know what. But anyhow, so this night when this happened, some of my friends that were around me, it was kind of like a normal thing. Like, it's happening. It's like, dude, what is with this guy? You know, all these strange things, you know what I mean? So this little guy, and he looked African. You know, I do remember that. Like, I mean, not like African American, because, you know, a lot of my best friends were African American. You know, we all, Florida, we all kind of look alike, and you know, this guy was different, dude.
Yeah.
And had just you know, one of them strange looks in his face, you know, in his eyes. And so he asked, "Can I pray for you at the box office buying tickets for this group of people?" And so I was like, "Okay, man." So I kind of crushed out a line, and dude gets on all fours, you know, on his knees and his hands and his elbows on the ground, and puts his hands around my cast on my right foot, and I'm on crutches. And I was like kind of embarrassed, like, "What are you doing, bro?"
In front of all these people.
Yeah.
But nobody was watching him. Nobody paid attention. Just my friends, the guys and the girls that we were with, they're all kind of like, "Oh, there he goes." You know, some weird little thing happening, you know, and yeah. And so he starts praying, and then I start feeling something on the inside of me, you know, and nerves or whatever, you know, I just felt something kind of pulsing. I say it felt like it was in my spine or in my sternum. And so I kind of leaned down, and I thought, well, man, what if this dude's Haitian and he's like putting voodoo on me or something like that? Because, you know, I had kind of weird crap like that going around. And so I just kind of like leaned down to hear what he was saying. And when I did, he was speaking in a complete different language, and it scared me, startled me, and like just blah, 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 blah. And I just, so I'm standing on crutches, so I just stood back up, just kind of like, oh my God.
Not doing that again.
Are you almost done?
Yeah.
Went from like, dude, this is embarrassing, to like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Then I leaned down, the thought comes to my mind, if this isn't the name of Jesus, then that means it's good.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know, you know, very much, but I just knew Jesus equals good.
Yeah.
You know, right? And so I leaned back down, and then he was praying in English, and it was clear, and I could hear him. I was like, okay, so you quit the retarded act now, huh, buddy? Now you want to talk normal.
Yeah.
And you know, he might have had a little accent or something, but it's like he didn't seem like so broken English. And then he says, "In Jesus' name." He said it like a couple times. "In Jesus' name."
Oh.
And then he stands up, and you know, I was kind of shook. You know, I was nervous. I had a buzz in my chest, like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him, and I was just like, "Hey, thank you." And he looked me in the eyes, and he just pointed up. He said, "Don't thank me, thank him," and just pointed up.
Yeah.
And I said, "Thank you." I said it again, not trying to be a smart aleck, but I was just shook.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, thank you," you know. And so I crouched down, you know. I've told this story a lot of, like, you know, people from where I'm from that knew me did not expect, when they see what I do now, they're just like, "What in the world,
What
dude?
happened?"
How did you, what?
You took a hard turn, Daniel.
This is didn't see this coming." But when they've heard this story, it was so cool. You know, when you did that video, James, like, you know, when that got out, it was like, because I tell it in more detail, but they were just like, you know, "Yeah, I remember the Merritt Island Theater, and Jungle Gyms was next to it, and they tore that portion down, and now it's built up like this." You know, they were all communicating. It was just kind of cool to see, like, my old coach, like a lot of different people were like, "This is really, wow, dude." Like, this is crazy, but they know me.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm like just some weirdo that's just making up weird things, because that does happen.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know, anyways, it was just cool. And so he stood up and was just like, "Don't thank me, thank him," to which I just thanked him again. I just crutched down the large step area to where my crew was, and they were like, "He was praying for you." A few of them saw it, and they're like, "Man, okay, you know, whatever." There it goes again. But I was just buzzed out. And another thing I forget sometimes, people ask me, like, "Did your foot heal instantly?"
Yeah.
And it didn't. You know, I mean, it was in a cast. I had like reconstructive surgery.
Yeah.
You know, it was my right foot, and I ended up jumping better off my right than I do off my left.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, it did not heal instantaneously. It was, I mean, I didn't even think that. I just knew I was buzzed. But I tell you what it did do is, like, somebody grabbed my foot and placed it on a different path than I had been on.
Yeah.
And my walk changed. Kind of like when Jacob wrestled the angel of the Lord, and like his walk, his hip, he limped, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like his walk was different from there on out. And I think that's really what happened. But one of the things that I tell with that story is, like, I had a Bible. It was an NIV Bible, and like that my parents had bought me for Christmas like a couple years before that, because they were always just worried. They were always like, my mom and sister were like praying in my room when I'd go places, like, "Let's just go pray over his room," just because he's just
in case,
a scoundrel, you know. And so they were doing that kind of stuff, right? And like Tupac and, DMX covered in blood CD cases. They're like praying over my music. Like he listens to this stuff. He's heading for it, and I kind of was probably, but anyhow, they'd give me that Bible. And in this season of my life, when that supernatural stuff started happening, the dreams, the knockings, the, all kind of strange things in the night, I had taken that Bible, which I didn't even want, but I had kept it, and I started leaving it open next to my bed.
Yeah.
Almost like, like somebody like burns incense to keep the flies away or whatever. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was just like, it was more like superstitious. Like I'm gonna keep this thing open just in case anything weird walks in here. That's kind of, you can see where I was mentally. Just didn't really have much understanding. But anyways, so it was sitting next to my bed. And when I got home that night, my blood brother drove me home and freaking, went to bed, and I had to lay with my foot above my heart, so your
blood
foot wouldn't swell. Yeah. And I remember that, like that night, I remember thinking like, I know in my mind, it wasn't even like an audible prayer. Like I just knew like in communication, like, hey, if that was you, then there's something in here about that in the Bible.
Yeah.
And, so I whipped, and this is so cool because you could make this up, but you'd be a rotten son of a gun if you did. You know what I mean? Like this is my life, and this really happened. But I opened up the Bible and I just did the, just put your thumbs on it and just open it up perfectly to something.
Yeah.
But I was like, if that was you, it's in here. And I literally just opened up to what I know now as Hebrews 13:2. That says, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels without being aware.
Yeah.
And if,
because you didn't see that guy again.
No, that was the thing. Yeah. I crutched down the stairs where we were. If you knew the way Meridian Theater was laid out back then, like they weren't steps like little, they were like 3 foot long. It was like, so we weren't up real high. It was just long stepping out into this big common area where the parking was and stuff. And they were just like, what's that dude doing? Was he praying for you? And I was like, yeah, he was. And then my friends were like, where is he? And I was like, he's right over there. It's kind of like, I didn't want to like turn around, just like point him like, he's that weird looking little African dude right there. You know what I mean? Rafiki over there, he just freaking, with his staff from Lion King, just had that aura about him.
Yeah.
I was like, he's over there, kind of looking over my shoulder, like, where? I was like, right over there, dude. And there's nowhere you could go.
Yeah.
If you knew that area, which is cool because a lot of my friends, and some of them were there.
Yeah.
That were not. They didn't know if Jesus was shot or crucified. They didn't have a grid for it at that time. They do now. But we're just like, everyone's like, what the beep? Where's this dude at? Where did he go? I'm like, I don't know. Where is he at? And none of us can see him.
Yeah.
We're like, he's not even here no more. So there's a chance that, he like scurried real quick and jumped into a car, had his posse waiting, but he was just gone.
It's like,
and so I told my brother, I was like, dude, that dude was not human. I don't think that guy was a human being. He wasn't speaking right.
Yeah.
And Derek had goosebumps all over his arms, and he's a Christian now. And but then when I went home and I opened up that Hebrews 13 and it said that, I thought, man, dude, it just started. It was kind of like, you think that's impressive. You're going to see heaven open and angels ascending and descending. And it's like, you're going to see things from the other side that are going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're going to be one of the ones that's called to enter into it and bring it back to the earth. You know, that Isaiah 51, I've put my words in your mouth that I could plant heaven in the earth. And it's like, huh? It's like, yeah, dude, you're with me in this. You're called to do this with me. But in my life, it was just coming to this place like, hey, like, I started to realize this place is temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not like, well, you're going to go to hell if you don't, not that temporary. Not like this. I mean, it's like the Hebrews 11:2-3. It's like, hey, this, by faith, we're starting to understand that the worlds, the planets, the universes, all those translations work right there, were framed by the word of God. Like, hey, this place you're in is less real than the place you're called to represent and that you're called to live, entering into and bringing into the earth and manifesting to the earth. And that's faith, man.
Yeah.
And so that, people are like, did you feel like you're a sinner? Did you feel like all these things? Like, no, I didn't. I actually felt special.
Yeah.
I actually felt valued by God, which love is a hard word for me too, because, I come to the church in those days when I would come around, it's like all these guys, you know what I'm saying? looking a certain way, hugging each other, like, oh, hey, brother. And it's just like, I'm from Florida, man. We're quite a bit homophobic down there, especially back then in the 90s. So I was highly uncomfortable from that type of behavior, And, and you think, oh, man, this guy's trying to hug on me and stuff like that, but so love, when people are like, oh, it's about love and all these things, it wouldn't make sense to me until I started to know God. And I realized a better word for love, or a way that I could understand it well, was value.
Yeah.
If you love somebody, you really value them.
Yeah.
You hope for them, know. You show them like, hey, it's not like, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
If you tell that to the guy at the grocery store today, it's going to be like, okay. You know what I mean?
A little weird now.
If you're a girl, it might pay off for you. You might be like, oh, hey, well, let's talk, or if you're a guy, hey, I love you, like, okay, right on, you know what I'm saying? But like, if you learn to show value to someone, hey, you're important and you're valuable, and I'm not just going to walk past you. Yeah. I'm going to look you in the face, and I'm going to speak to you as if you are who God says you are.
Oh yeah.
And it's value is just it's different.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I came into the kingdom, into this life. It was the fear of the Lord, which is the reality of heaven surrounding you.
Yeah.
It's the acknowledgement the angel Lord encamps around those who fear him. It's like this, it's this understanding that the angel Lord is with me and around me at all times, and I'm not escaping this.
Yeah.
There's something more real than this. Hebrews 12, it's like we're surrounded by such, or 13, of a cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
So let's lay aside every sin and the weights that so easily entangled us, and it's like, well, what does that mean? It means like you should stop sinning because you're going to go to hell. It's like, no, it's like by Hebrews 13, it's like saying, you should stop living that way because the picture is way bigger and you're actually a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And nothing's unseen.
Yeah.
And this place, this whole thing, there's so much more purpose and destiny to our lives than just living clean and going to heaven when we die.
Yeah.
It's about heaven coming to the earth now,
Yeah.
in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a long time in my early walk, the reality of the fear of the Lord was what sustained me. It's like, God is good, but it really was the love of God, because I felt special.
Yeah.
I felt chosen by God, and I felt valued where I probably wasn't valued I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
By a lot of other people, or the majority, or all people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I did. And, you hear that with people that are young and they come into this life, and sometimes they have me, because I do it. I disciple people.
Yeah.
A lot of people. And it's like, sometimes people come in hot and they almost have this mentality, like, I'm the chosen one. I'm going to wield this thing. I'm the next Rey Skywalker, or I'm the Luke from Tatooine, whatever.
Yeah.
And there can be this temptation with leaders a lot of times, like, I'm going to stuff that out because this is about humility and this is. And it's just like, dude, do not squash the love of God when somebody feels valued and special by God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be a little annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
You're going to have that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But reaffirm that reality,
Mm-hmm.
and humility will come to them as they continually take this faith and walk it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes it will cause character flaws will arise, or things will arise, and they'll be able to trip up. They'll have the freedom to make mistakes. Yeah. But then instead of being disqualified, which is the temptation, they'll still know that they're loved and valued. And it's just like, hey, well, there's things the Lord's leading you into, and there's other things coming up. Hey, like, let's cut them out. You know? Let's grow in this thing. And humility, I feel like, comes from faith. Yeah. It comes from walking this stuff out and learning and walking with the Lord and knowing Him more. But it can be a little much sometimes.
But I think sometimes it's like actually trusting the Lord in everybody's own process. Like the Lord's going to actually deal with things. Yeah. And even though, like, if you're a leader and you're like responsible for these people, you actually can trust the Lord. Yeah. Like, you actually want to cause the things that are good within people to flourish. Yeah. And so speak to those things. Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
and let them feel special.
Totally.
Let them feel valued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there's no ox in the stall is nice and clean. That's what Solomon said, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you want to kick all the ox out because they make too much of a mess. It's like, well, there's not going to be any power to really plow
to
this
move
massive
anything.
field. Yeah. You know what I mean? You'll have a nice stall, but your land will be decrepit.
Yeah, barren. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to deal with the little oxen fodder.
It kind of reminds me.
So who cares, dude?
Yeah.
That's like the word that the guy who ordained you gave you about like be prepared to change a bunch of diapers.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me laugh because it's like
I
children have poopy diapers and it's okay.
And luckily I was that guy for a long time. I was a guy that by trial and error went out and did stuff and hit some,
for sure,
honestly, some major home runs that I have stories to this day.
Yeah.
That they're, super cool and they're super impressive. And it sounds like, wow, you did some Jedi stuff.
Yeah.
But I also have stuff where I got my, what do you say? Your butt handed to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I tripped up and made mistakes that were public or I got humiliated. You know what I mean? I also had those things.
Totally.
And so it caused me to learn and grow and walk in maturity. So it's like, people make a mess. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to shut them down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give them more platform, as long as it's not destructive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
well, that's
why look at you guys.
Yeah.
Think about this. This gospel walk is like transformative.
Yeah, it is.
And if God is real, then you can trust him to actually lead people.
Yeah.
Totally.
You don't have to micromanage and control it.
Totally.
And, it's like you guys were both different people when I met you.
Yeah.
What, like, more than 9 years ago, you were like living a completely different life. You know what I mean? Like you're not the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And, transformed after continually transforming and growing. You know what I'm saying, James? I mean, you said, what was it? Something about Nickelback. You said something about coming to church and be like Nickelback.
Yeah.
I mean, explain yourself.
I wasn't gonna show up. Yeah, I'm not going to that Nickelback church.
You didn't want much to do
I
with
had
God.
never
You
seen
were
or
over
heard.
it.
No, I was over it. Yeah, I've been burned.
I don't want to go to the Nickelback,
church. Oh, where did that come from? but here's what I wrote this down with you.
It's your favorite thing in the world, isn't it?
I mean, it's great, but I mean, I maybe I'm a little offended still. Like I feel like I need that was great. The Nickelback church,
my little attitude flaring up.
But it was great because you wanted nothing to do with God, really.
No.
Yeah.
It was the last resort. There was something of like, if I'm really at the end of this rope, I'll just go. What is there to lose?
Yeah.
And I did. And it felt like home.
For the listener's clarity,
yes.
When he comes to the Hoff, his mom and his brother are like, yo, you need to come to this place. It's cool. Pastor's fairly young. I think you'll really like it. And his thought, and you might even said it, but it was what?
I said it, yeah. I said,
well, this is going to be.
It's going to be some Nickelback church. Which you think of Nickelback church, I'm thinking like.
Which they get a bad rap because they got some good songs, man. People make fun of them.
They don't.
I'm just.
Let no
unwholesome word proceed out of your mouth.
Uh-oh.
No.
Golly.
Got him, dude.
Look at this.
Got him, dude.
But so, that was his comment. So
that was my comment.
Pop culture, if you don't know Nickelback, some people think that it's a band that you only like if you're kind of older and nerdier.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Yes, so he thinks that's probably what I'm going to come to.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
That's what I thought.
Which is fine. But what I'm saying, I'm just bringing that up. Not because I'm trying to I'm not bitter against that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just a little bit. I'm just kidding.
But really, it's somebody whose life was just like, I don't want anything to do with the God thing.
Yeah.
And now you lead on the prophetic teams and you do all these, you started this podcast. You guys are doing killer stuff, and it's like so many different things. You guys have shot videos with the Hoff Creative Collective, all these different things, but it's like, your life, you were a different person walking up in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And dude, if you could interview some Floridians, I don't want you to, but if you ever get a hold of one that knew me, it'd be like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
No.
Well, here's the thing though, and I wrote this down last night thinking about this podcast, having you on here, and even what you were talking about earlier, what Marley had talked about, like changing diapers. It's like one thing that I appreciate about you is you connect people to the Lord. You're 100%. Not connecting people to yourself.
Yeah.
And you ask questions and stuff that leads people into like connection with the Lord. You connect them to him. And that's why I'm here now, was I got connected. I saw people that know God. That was my first thing, was like, oh, these people know God. And I wanted that. I was like, I want to know him. But that's the name of the game, and that's what you do. And I really appreciate that.
No doubt.
And that's a strength to do that. I mean, to be a leader of a church, but to be so selfless and just connect. Yeah. I'm here to connect to the Lord. I don't know.
It's the only thing we really have.
That's what it is. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the only thing of true value.
But what's so cool about
any of us
is there's like 100. There's zero control in it at all. And so it's total freedom, but it's like I don't know. It's counter to everything that's.
Yeah, it's different. It's
different. Yeah.
Fatoni, the woman at the well. That's what people,
Yeah.
She meets the Lord. It's amazing the story, the way it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to her town. They end up having like meeting, call it a crusade or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, or revival meetings or whatever. With a Samaritan town, so it shouldn't have happened. And, but what they said about her, they came because of her, but like now we believe not because of what you told us, Fatoni, but we've seen ourselves. And that's us.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I saw your transformation and you pointed me to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it made me, I was open-minded because of that, maybe even just a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I believe because I've actually met him myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that is heaven to earth. That's our play.
Yeah.
That is evangelism. That is ministry.
Yeah.
It's just like,
that is life.
Yeah. We're not connected to you or to what you say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you've got the words, so now we believe because of what you said. It's like, that still doesn't work. What did Jesus say to, Peter, like flesh and blood in Matthew 16?
Yeah.
Flesh and blood. A person has not revealed this to you.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? Because he says, who do people say that I am? Some people say you're Elijah come back or whatever. Well, who do you say? And Peter says, you're the Christ, you're the Son of God. And Jesus, blessed are you, for flesh and blood didn't reveal it. In other words, like now you've got this some outside of this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's at Hebrews 11.
Flesh and blood didn't reveal it, but your Father who's in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got this by your relational connection to God. He recognized, because even Nathaniel in John 1 says, you're the Messiah,
Yeah.
People had said that before. He told Fatini, like, I'm him.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he was so excited in that instance when Peter said, you're the Christ. But that's why. Because you can see it. You can be impressed by a sign. You can be impressed by whatever else. But he's like, flesh and blood. Now, this is actually, somehow Jesus is able to see into him somehow. But he sees into him and he realizes, like, you got this through relational connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not because I told you or somebody, you've seen, and on this rock I will build my church. The gates of hell won't prevail against it. Like, there's a rock within you now. No one will take that away from you.
Yeah.
Because it's not on somebody else's word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've experienced
it's a part of you.
You've experienced the word of God.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, man. And if Jesus talked like he wasn't like a scribe, they're like, man, he's not like a scribe. His words have weight.
Yeah.
But I think we're called to live in the same way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, this is reality to me.
Yeah.
This is my life. You can see the transformation there. The gifts of the Spirit function in this way too, because they kind of bring heaven's reality into people's life. But then they have the ability to then themselves pursue that connection. And then that's where it takes off.
Oh yeah.
Once they do that, I mean, that's where things get very real for other people.
Yeah.
And that's where fruit is born. And, but yeah, like you said, we just have to be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, here's the thing. It's like, if you believe that he's real, then you don't have to peddle.
Yeah.
And you don't have to convince.
Yeah.
You're literally throwing the ball by the rim, like an alley-oop for Shaquille or whoever else, whoever the big LeBron or whoever the kids like these days, you know what I'm saying? There's this partnership in the connection, and your job is literally to embody this reality in such a way that people, they want what you have.
Yeah.
They're not just afraid where they're going. They actually want to walk in the freedom and the wholeness that you're walking in. But also, too, they're inspired to connect him as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe I will take a chance on him.
Yeah.
Like all these people we've talked about in the Bible. And when he's real, so you know that he's gonna capitalize on his end when they reach to him. That's just the way it works. And man, that creates a life that is so much more at rest and at peace as far as ministry goes.
Yeah.
Or even just individual ministry, like evangelism and stuff. It's like, so it's not like do or die. If I don't reach them, they're going to go to hell. Because I was too insecure, whatever it is. It's like, no, walk in the wholeness of this new covenant life, and it's transferable.
Yeah.
Like it is contagious, really.
Yeah.
And that is what convicts like people in their heart. Like, wait, I'm convinced there's something real here. There's something real. I smell.
And people will
heaven.
see it in every aspect of their life. It's not just ministry. It's not trying to connect to people it's like the business that you run. Like,
everything.
You will actually have success. Like heaven will usher that thing in
every aspect
as
of
you
life.
rest in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people will begin to see that thing. You know, like we have our own story about like we rested in the Lord and somebody approached us about buying our gym. It was like we never even had to work a thing out or anything, and it ended up being extremely beneficial for us.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and you had considered selling it and had numbers and stuff that you were willing to go.
Yeah.
But when you didn't do it in your own strength, you got a better number.
We got a way better number.
Yeah, it was very cool, you know?
We got a way better number. But I've been able to share just even that story, and it sparked people's faith. They're like, if he would do it for her, he'll do it for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where it's at in every aspect of your life. It's letting the Lord lead.
And it continues, it grows into the point where you just expect that. Like, that's just what he does.
Totally.
For you. He pulls through. And he's with you. It's like you said, it felt like a cloud came and like was over you. It's like there.
Yeah, this reality comes and it's parked
Yeah.
in your driveway.
It takes residence over your head.
Yeah. But at first, you know, for me, it's like, I don't want to walk through that cloud.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk out there. I can see it. I know it's here. I know it's time.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's like, dude, what are you holding on to?
Yeah.
You think you're going to lose something.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to gain everything.
The only thing you're losing is sand in your hand. Like literally, like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think it's so valuable.
Yeah.
Image and all these different things, but all the image and reputation and all these different things, they're just tied to an identity that's not even yours, that you're having to work to maintain.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I'm telling you, you don't even know who you are.
You're just spinning your wheels.
Until you hear beloved.
Yeah.
This is my beloved. When you're a son or daughter, then you realize, like, oh, the game changes.
Yeah.
Everything kind of changes. And even your goals in life, whether they're secular or ministerial. And that's the thing. People, like, there's nothing that's not.
Totally.
That's not pure and holy in this life. We think it has to be in some sort of ministry avenue. And it's like, no, not at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like it needs to come through your life constantly.
Yeah.
Before it ever does off a microphone or anywhere else. It's like that's the way it's naturally supposed to be.
Yeah.
I remember one of the things a dream that I had when Nicole and I were first married for about a year. We lived in this little town called Moravian Falls, North Carolina. It's just like, man, maybe a couple thousand people live there up on by the Blue Ridge Mountains, right? And one night I went to sleep, and now I look back, I had a grid about heaven and eternity that had stayed with me since I was young. Because when I was a little kid, my parents were pretty zealous for the Lord, even though it was a Baptist church. But they would like to go hear guest speakers sometimes and stuff like that. And they'd go to the worship nights and stuff. Like, people think that stuff is new. That stuff isn't new. This thing's been rolling for
long time,
40 years, probably way longer. That's just my span. And people, the music would get up. Oh, and they, the music would go really long, which I never liked. And the guy would get up and be like, isn't heaven's going to be awesome. We're going to get to do this the whole time. Won't have to get up and stop for the message.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like,
or go to the bathroom or eat. You just do this nonstop.
Yeah. I was just like, I felt like that, to me, like that would be hell.
Yeah.
That would be hell to sit through that, know? And in my little kid mind, I really believed that. Like, I cannot look at that. And I would ask my parents, like, is heaven going to be funner than like Disney World and SeaWorld? Like, oh yes, it's going to be funner than those places. I'm like, okay. Because I'm a Florida kid, so like, is it going to be as fun as Disney World? Like, yes, it will be. It will be more fun than that. Okay. Because they would say these things, oh, heaven's going to be awesome. And I would be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, man. Yeah. I don't know if I'm able to do it. So when I was a little kid, I actually wanted to go to hell.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted. And so I wasn't afraid of it. And I figured that I would be dropped into hell. I would denounce God. This was my plan. I would denounce God on my deathbed. And I would drop into hell. And then I could kind of like say, psych, I do believe,
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have to go to church for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
We're going to do this for eternity. I'm like, no. And in my mind, I pictured like volcanoes and like, but it still had beaches and stuff. So I'm like, it's still going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to be dark, which I like dark. I like night better than daytime. A lot of times I was like, it'll be better.
It's going to be what I actually like.
It's going to be things I like, and that probably scares some people. So like, you want to go to hell? But I really did. Man.
Yeah.
I really did. And, like I'm not saying this isn't a preacher story. Like, I thought this way. I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
This came into my mind as a kid, man.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I was married to Nicole for about a year. And this is after I've been saved. I started having all these prophetic experiences, like training in ministry, serving in a church, all these different things. But I went to sleep one night and we had this little house, and the guest bedroom was kind of like an office, kind of had a desk in there and stuff. And I used to pray there and stuff in the mornings a lot of times. And in the dream, I was in there. I went in there and there was this lady there. And kind of like this desk area that we're at, it was about this width, which I don't know why I even said that because nobody can see it but us. But, this lady was sitting across the desk from me. And in the dream, I knew I knew she was a citizen of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
She was from heaven and she was on the earth to meet with me. And I was getting this interview of a lifetime. And I've had a few things like this where it's like, you can ask any question. And in these situations, sometimes I'm like, I can't think of something like
this.
I got nothing, dude.
This is the most important thing I can, and it's happened to me several times. But this one was interesting because she was like telling me about heaven and interviewing me, or I was interviewing her. And so I was just sitting there writing what she would say. And it was so real, y'all. Like, it was like heaven was like Puerto Rico or somewhere. Like you could just take a plane to it, and you could just, it's in Colorado. Yeah. It's like, to me in the dream, it was like my religious grid in my mind wasn't there. And so I was just talking to somebody that lived in a different place, but it was heaven.
Yeah.
And I knew it was an honor. I knew it was an honor to meet her. I don't remember who she was. I don't even remember what she looked like.
Yeah.
Just a regular woman. And I'm sure she's somebody. I don't know if she's I don't know, dude. So she's cloud of witness, right?
Yeah.
And, Hebrews 13. So she's sitting there and she's telling me these things about heaven. And a few of the things she says, she's like, she's like, one of the uncomfortable things about heaven is like some of the things which are serving you are so awesome.
Yeah.
And I remembered that. I remember three things from the dream, but I remember that like, it was like these things like, what? Like aliens? Like what are you talking about? Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, serving like restaurants? Like I didn't know what she was saying, but in my mind I was picturing like even when you go eat somewhere or whatever, some of the things that serve you, they're just incredibly brilliant. And so it's it's so humble to be like, you're serving me? Like,
yeah,
what's going on? And that's what she was kind of communicating to me. So she said that, and she's like, and the people who you would think would be famous there are not always the people who are famous there.
Wow.
And I was like, really? And I knew that she was talking about people that I would consider to have great ministerial success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the famous preachers on the TV or whatever. It's just like they're not famous there.
Yeah.
There's fame there. There's people that have a lot of, notoriety or whatever. They're well known for whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not the way you would think it would. It's going to shock you is what she was kind of telling me.
Wow.
Kind of like there's something.
I love that.
Yes. Like there's something so much more.
Yeah.
To a heart that's conformed to the image of the Lord, that loves wholeheartedly, that is as wholeness, that is effective and releasing light to people. You know, it doesn't like ministerial platforms and how big your name gets. Like that's what you think. It doesn't. Not that it doesn't, but it doesn't always translate that way. And that I was going to be surprised.
Success looks different in the
I
kingdom.
was like, what about the people that nobody knows?
Yes.
Oh,
and there's
a lot of underdogs
I'm sure
that are out there with the Lord's heart.
Yeah.
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 That's cool.
No doubt. The person that got woke up in the middle of the night in Chandler, Texas 8 years ago with you on their heart and started praying for James Harden.
Yeah.
Or Marliette. You know what I mean? The person that
No, that actually happened. Me and James.
You crediting yourself for that right now?
I am.
You just lost your reward.
Sorry.
Are you kidding me?
I did.
You lost your reward.
Look at that.
It was actually Stephanie's fault, but we'll leave that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we talked about it.
So your mom was telling your dirt to people in town, and so they got framed. But still, you know what I mean? But
I'm
good.
just kidding.
It worked out
I'm
good.
just kidding.
My mom definitely was. Hey, I told you, they were doing little parades in my room.
Yeah.
They're like playing little worship CDs in my room. Y'all know what CDs are. It's the way we listen to music back in the old days.
Are you kidding me? I used to have the little visor with it, dude.
Okay, good.
I have mine still.
Yeah, they're playing the worship CDs in my room. Taking the DMX out, putting that in.
Little Stephen
praying.
Curtis Chapman on the side.
So I had them too. But yeah, you just never know people that sowed into your life that weren't seen, or maybe they gave that word, they gave that cup of water to the kid who's at least
totally.
Anyways, the fruit in heaven, it's an opportunity. Let's just put it that way. I feel like every day is an opportunity to sow the seeds of heaven, and we should never look at anybody as insignificant.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of and it's not just like because I want to be famous in heaven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like, hey, like there's so much more that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than our names being big and making money and all these things.
So what was the third thing she told you?
So the third thing, oh, excuse me, coughed right into the microphone, dude. Golly, what a character.
Shock value.
Yeah, wake people up. They're falling asleep. So yeah, the two things right there was the things that serve you, which I'm in my mind I didn't ask. I was like, you said things, the beings or whatever,
Yeah.
Was the famous. That was the second one, and the third one is she asked me if I had any questions for her, which that's the moment of truth. Because I've had a similar dream like that where I just drew blank, and it was like I was sitting next to somebody really important. And I just couldn't get anything out, so I ended up waking up and feeling like you idiot,
you had a moment.
That was another time, but But anyways, when she asked me this cross table, is there any questions you have for me? And it was a root in my heart that the Lord was dealing with, and it manifested to her.
Yeah,
and it was so perfect, because I asked her, I said, so on a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being, the low end, 10 being the high end. What do you rate heaven compared to what you thought it was going to be when you were on the earth? What you compared to what it is now on a 1 to 10? What is it? And just kind of like, just to see what she would say, because that was me as a kid, and I didn't realize this. Now I think I'm like 26 in this dream, 26, 27. So on a 1 to 10 scale, how has heaven played out compared to what you thought it would when you were living on the earth? And I sat, and she goes, and in my mind, I was honestly thinking it was going to be 6 for some reason. I was like, it's going to be about 6 or 7. It's a 6. Like it's like really good. It's cool, great, but I didn't really, that's kind of what I was thinking. And she took a second, and not even like one whole second, but like she just stopped and responded. She says 50. And when she said 50, I broke. It was like wind hit me from the front, across the table from this woman, and I broke down like I slouched and started weeping. Yeah, because it was almost like I didn't even have a grid. Yeah. I just said on a 1 to 10 scale, what is heaven compared to what you thought it would be when you were on the earth? And I was like, I thought, it's really great, but it's not. I mean, it's not like ecstasy, it's not like, I was expecting 6 and like, kind of don't get my hopes up, because it felt so natural to talk to her. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and even saying that, like, compared to when you lived on the earth compared to now when you're there, what was it? I wasn't even considering that she had died. Yeah. She just moved. In that experience, it's like that whole grid was off of me. It was heaven was so very real to me there. Yeah. And when she said 50, I mean, I just crumbled and started crying. What I mean? Just like it crushed me. And then I woke up in my bed, whoa. Yeah. And, Nicole's laying next to me. I'm not in the prayer room office, the lady's not in front of me. I'm just like, whoa, that was something. But it showed me that one of the things is like, even in the goodness of God and what he's prepared for us and what he's calling us into, I had such a limited view. Totally. Even coming out of that mentality, because I didn't still plan on going to hell. That was a little DT thing. Yeah. That wasn't me as a grown up and as a Christian. What I mean? That was just like my thing when I was little. But I was still carrying a hitch on how good can it really be in the goodness of God and these different things. And it was just like this encouragement of like, hey man, like this world is plastic and there's some great, really cool things you get to experience and do in this world. But it's like, nothing is worth jeopardizing. Yeah. And I don't mean jeopardizing heaven or hell. I'm saying it's like nothing is not worth just fully releasing and following the Lord and sewing up and laying up treasure there, having that place, heaven's agenda and priority. Let your kingdom come. The Matthew 6:33, the Luke 12:31, it's like, seek first the kingdom and all these things that you need here will be added to you. It's like that priority of heaven first and God first. And like the Lord is my shepherd. In other words, like he's the one who leads my life and I don't make my own decisions anymore. Yeah. I mean, I'm growing in maturity, but my desire is to follow the leading of my shepherd into everything that happens that I do. And so once that priority clicks, this life clicks. You bear fruit. But you're knowing him and walking in him, and there's fruit and stuff being laid up on that other side of the tracks. And so, I mean, woke up and I told Nicole the dream and told the pastor that I was under at the time, you know what I'm saying? Listen to this, you know what I'm saying? And cool. You know, it's, even the stuff about like the people that are famous there, one thing she said, it's like, it's not the same thing. It's not who we would think would be famous. She's talking about, and I was like, she was talking about ministerial. I was like, well, yeah. Somebody was like, well, I believe that. I've told you that. And I was like, no, I just sat next to this lady from over there, over in Puerto Rico. I just talked to her. You know what I mean? It was very, very real to me. You know what I mean? And so heaven became real to me.
Yeah.
You know, 6 years into me being a real Christian, you know, and not that it wasn't real, but it just wasn't. I wasn't excited about it.
There was another expanse that happened within you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Well, it's like there's no stone left unturned with anything that you have. It's like full transformation in like every aspect of everything.
Lord, it's like the Lord wants to fully remove every limitation that we have in our mind about experiencing Him and experiencing heaven and releasing heaven. Like He'll go after every limit that we have. Like everything's on the table.
Yeah.
It even makes me think of like heaven and earth overlapping. It's like we're seated in the heavenly places like right now.
Mm-hmm.
So even having that the treasure, laying up the treasure in heaven and stuff, it's like it's there now. It's just interesting to think about it.
And it makes you think about that dimensional thing that you were talking about, you know, because, you know, I mean, Jesus walking around saying the kingdom of heaven is where? He says it's at hand.
Yeah, it's
like,
right
it's
here.
It's actually at hand.
It's right here.
What did you say? At hand is in like, I mean, it's around you.
Yeah, it's within reach.
You
it's
can
like
grab
here.
it.
Yeah, he told the Pharisees, man, I believe it's Luke 17. He said, the kingdom of heaven's actually in you. And that wasn't his disciples he's talking to, which is like, well, that's controversial because they weren't trying to say no sinner's prayer. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, there was something he did in his incarnation, which is controversial. It's not controversial. It's the Bible, that he came into us. He came into humanity fully, immersed himself in the deepest darkness of humanity. But also he took that darkness and immersed himself inside of us and deposited something, that eternal seed. But, you know, Luke 17, 20, 21 said, the kingdom of God is not coming in ways that can be observed.
Yeah.
You know, by you actually just looking around for it. Look, here it is. There, here it is. He's like, but the kingdom of God it is in you. And that's Luke 20 and 21. It's just like, hey man, it doesn't come by observation.
Yeah.
In other words, like sitting and watching and looking for it.
Yeah.
It's actually in you. In other words, it comes when you let it out.
Yeah.
He's telling
it's not
Pharisees
external.
He's telling people that are coming against him that are trying, how can we kill him? It's like, it's too late, guys.
Yeah.
I'm already on the inside of you boys.
Yeah.
And it'll come when you decide to stop kicking against the goads and let it out. And it's like, yikes, dude.
Yeah.
You know, don't get into a debate about that one, man, because you can't really, man. You just let the dog chasing his tail. You know, and he talked like that way, so it's not my fault, you know.
Yeah, no.
It's just that way.
It's just his words, man.
Yeah, dude.
Well,
I just believe what he says.
That's hopeful because then you have to view everybody with that aspect of like it's inside of them too, no matter what they're operating in.
That's, you know, we make a big deal about prophecy, you know, but Revelations 19:10 says the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Testimony of Jesus is like, learning to see people through the value that he has for them, given his own life for them.
Yeah.
And see them as redeemed instead of as the state that they're in. That's the actual spirit of prophecy.
Yeah.
And then you call those things that are not as though they are, because they are not maybe in this realm, but they are in the real.
Yeah.
You know, and you call that forth. That's a whole nother deal right there.
Yeah.
That's what really draws people out. That's the hope that like is even set before people that makes them like want to be pulled.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're poking that little seed in there.
And that's why people, God doesn't speak to me. It's like, well, we have this thing like, look, you can't, the new covenant is this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you just look through all the prophets of the Old Testament, that's what it's about. It's not, you know, I'm going to forgive you of your sins. Like, well, your sins are going to be washed away. But if you look in like Jeremiah 31, 33, if you look in Isaiah 58, you know what I'm saying? This is the covenant. Like, I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to make a new covenant, but my words are going to be in your mouth from this time and forevermore. Joel 2, you know, it's like, it'll come to pass afterwards. My spirit will actually be poured out upon the flesh.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? What about cleansing? It's like, the Holy Spirit of God himself will be upon them. Do you think that's not cleansing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And in the result, their sons and daughters will prophesy, boys and girls. There's no grid of who gets to play. That was all you guys. It was never me.
Yeah.
God's saying, your old men and young men seem dreams and visions. You know, you have all these different things throughout, and we could just go on and on about the communication of God that's there. But it's there for everyone.
Yeah.
And we live as those who communicate with God. People are like, I want that.
Yeah.
And then they realize it's happening.
Yeah.
And we talk about identity. He doesn't come communicating to our old self. He comes communicating to you, to your true self. You think about the story of Gideon. It's in Judges. I think Judges 5, it starts 5, 6, 7. It's like these stories of Gideon. It's hilarious, but he's threshing wheat in a wine press because he's afraid of the bad guys.
Yeah.
So he's trying to be secretive just to get food.
Yeah.
He's in a war zone, and Jesus, it says the embodiment of Yahweh comes and sits down under a tree, starts yelling at him. He's trying to be over there creeping the secret.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, Jesus starts, hey. He starts calling him you mighty man of valor. Starts calling him a mighty man of valor, dude.
Yeah.
And just yelling at him. And it's like, to Gideon, he's such in a different mentality, right?
Yeah.
He's like, how can you say that? Like, how the Lord is with you. He's yelling all that stuff to him and all these things. But it's just like, it's crazy, dude. He comes and speaks to who he actually is, not who he thinks he is. And I think it's Judges 6 when he starts talking to him, but it's like Judges 6:12, the Lord, angel of the Lord, which is the embodiment of Yahweh. It's Jesus, comes and sits under a tree, starts yelling at him. You know what I mean? He just calls him, the Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. And like Gideon starts arguing with him. What are you talking about? The Lord is with us.
Yeah.
Kind of like, can't you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I'm threshing my wheat in this wine press, trying to stay hidden just so I can have some food. I'm completely being dominated by the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I'm the least one in my father's house. And it's like the Lord doesn't even respond to his negativity.
Yeah.
He keeps talking to him like, the Lord's going to be with you, and he's going to save the people by your hand, and it's just like, and he literally tells him, go in this might of yours and save Israel from Midian. Like, he just doesn't even respond to him manifesting this persona that he has of himself as a weakling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
and
so good.
he's like, no. He's like, yeah. So anyways, go in this might of yours, and you're going to do this incredible thing. You're going to be you're going to be the leader of these people. And it's just like, I'm the least of my father's house. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
I think you got the wrong address.
Yeah.
But it's like, he doesn't come, like we can't judge people by the way they seem or come across.
Yeah.
We got to judge them by the love of God, which again, there's that definition. It's like, we got to, how valuable they truly are and important, their destiny, how precious they are to God.
Yeah.
It's like, man, when you can just tap into that, which is the love. I think Anthony is really good about that. I know he was talking about that with you guys.
Definitely.
But it's just like, when you tap into that, like, then you can see and you can hope for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And speak into that, and it makes it manifest.
Yeah.
It helps them. It causes them to manifest. And he doesn't relate to us when we're wearing our mask.
Yeah.
That costume of Adam, like, that we've used to get our needs met, or to stay hidden, or to go against the crowd, to fit in.
Yeah.
It's like, he doesn't, if I'm dressed up as Batman for Halloween, talking to my Batman voice, you know what I mean? Whatever. He doesn't come calling me Batman and talking to me like that.
Yeah.
He talks to me as he sees me and as I truly am.
Yeah.
And I think when you bet on the goodness of God and his kindness and acceptance towards you, people come to realize, and you speak that into people, it draws them to connect to him accurately. And like, that's where that vein of alignment is.
Yeah.
Where people have the communication and the communion flows. Because like, I want to receive revelation. I want to receive all these things.
Yeah.
Well, part of it's actually learning to pray and learning to listen.
Yeah.
Learning to listen and look and hear and all those things. And another part is actually being honest.
Yeah.
If you read the Psalms, like David is just like bleeding out in some of those Psalms, you know what I'm saying? But it's being so real and transparent with God that we're not coming in a costume and trying, well, yes, Father, I come to you in the name of Jesus, and I thank you for,
cover
it's
your
like,
bases.
Yeah, man. It's like we're coming in this real relational, humble way.
Yeah.
And allowing them to speak to us clearly,
Yeah.
without any grid, without any of that other stuff. And it happens. And then when you start walking this life out, that's another thing. When you start doing what you're called to do, when you step into your purpose, it's like the intelligence comes.
Yeah.
The voice, the words of heaven, like when you start following through on the things that he has given you, the more comes. It's like we don't send intel to people that aren't in the military.
Yeah.
We don't send military strategy to like the people that write for like TMZ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or like whatever,
sure.
you know what I mean? So they want the information.
Yeah.
They love it, you know? It's like, no, we send it to the people who value it and are actually going to do something with it.
Who have the ability.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Which
have
we
the
all
ability
do,
and they have a willing heart.
Yeah.
They've signed up and they've committed and they're walking as military soldiers or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's, I think the revelatory aspect of the Christian walk has been made something it was never meant to be.
Yeah.
Because God is spirit and you worship him and do so in spirit and truth, John 4. It's like, this is part of the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, they must be in the fivefold, must be this prophet or must be this person. It's like, no, this is prophesied all throughout the Old Testament of the way God speaks and will be speaking.
Yeah.
And once you,
it's how to have relationship.
Yeah. Once you step in a relationship with him and start following through and choosing to follow the shepherd, you get the shepherd's voice in your life.
Yeah.
And it's directional and it's healing and it makes you whole and it causes you to move from one point to another or cause you to jump into things maybe you wouldn't have done it before and really, you know, brings you to life. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love it. It's everybody actually has the same amount of the spirit within them. There's nobody has less than another. Like he poured it out all the way through. It's like we get to walk with him to develop, like being able to see sharper, to be able like that. What is it in like Hebrews? Like you discern things by like the actual practice, like the actual use of it.
Mm-hmm.
What is that scripture? Hebrews 5:14, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's the only difference. It's people who train themselves. Like, it's the training. It's learning his voice. It's like the more that you connect to him, the sharper things become.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And everything is gained too. It's like once you kickstart that, it's like anything you encounter, there's growth with everything.
I think one of the things, if you're a believer and even if your life is moving slow or you're spiritually not where you're wanting to be in the Lord and walking things out, one of the most important thing that you can do to get on track a lot of times is ask yourself, what is the last encounter that I've had with the Lord? It doesn't mean that you got, you know, pulled up by your dreadlocks like Ezekiel or, you know what I mean? But what is the last experience that I had with him where I knew he was communicating something to me?
Yeah.
You know, it could be a dream or vision. It could be a passage of scripture where you came and you knew the Lord's leading you to do something or leading you, you know, whatever it is, where you've experienced God in a way that like, hey, he's really speaking something into me. And then ask yourself, hey, one, have I followed through, or what he was speaking to me and in me, has it become a part of me? Has that actually become a part of me? Because all the experiences and the communications of the Lord, it's doing something. It's leading us into truth. It's breaking fear of man or pressure off of us or control or whatever it is. Maybe we're operating in something and he's showing us how to be free. But it's like looking back, hey, like, well, I'm in a dry spell right now. It's like, well, hey, like, have you followed through on the last thing that he's given you or that he's spoken to you? Or like, when's the last time? And it's a great exercise, man, to look back. Like, what are the last experience that I had that was actually pretty profound to me?
Yeah.
You know? And then going back and asking yourself, all right, was the heart of what he's wanting to impart to me there, has it become a part of my person?
Yeah.
Am I moving forward in that? And dude, that is such a hitter right there for people. And then for the people that like, well, I didn't even know he talked, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe they're not really followers or, you know, but I, you know, for those people, it's just like, hey, would you have even the smallest amount of faith to just reach out to him and ask him to speak?
Invitation.
And write it to him. And just write it in a notebook or something like that. Like, hey, I want to listen for your direction. I would, if you really are good, you know what I mean? If this is true about you, that you've implanted the, you know, within my being, you've sowed me in my mother's womb, you've put me together, you know, Psalm 139, like you knew me before time and space existed and you've designed me for something. If this stuff is true and you're good and you actually even do talk, would you lead me into the truth now? Would you communicate to me? Would you show me what this looks like? And just right there. And that's what I mean, man. Just like leaving it. Because when you live this way, even in ministry or any other way, it's like the God we're talking about is so very real.
Yeah.
That you don't have to peddle anything.
Yeah.
It's like he's gonna come through there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if we're worried, like, well, what if he doesn't talk to him? It's like, well, that's a hitch in your own belief, because that's just not how he works. It's not how he rolls.
Yeah.
He's talkative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
That's what he called it, and the Word was God, and he was with God in the beginning. He's like, wait, what? So God is, Jesus is God, and he was with God, all these different things, and he's the Word expression, the communication. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's not just like, just read the Gospels and that's God talking to you, because that 100% is.
Yeah.
That's the primary source for me of revelation is coming, especially in those first 4 books.
Yeah.
But they come alive, And that's another thing, dude. Here's the third thing. Not that anybody asked, but I'm just going to say this one too, is people, when you read to ask God to open it for you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to literally go before it, say, God, I don't fully understand this, or I'm choosing to read this.
Yeah.
Would you, by your Spirit, would you illuminate it to me and make it to make sense? Let me hear what you're saying to me in it.
Yeah.
That's such a brilliant practice. The tabernacle of the Old Testament, the very first one, it had this showbread on the inside of it in this very dark room, and then it had this menorah, the candle. But the only way the priest could come and eat of that bread was to have that candle lit, because it was so dark. And the candle is the sevenfold Spirit of God. That Isaiah 11. Revelation 1. It's like this. It is the Spirit of God that illuminates the bread of life. So that you can actually see what you're eating. You can actually gain understanding. It can become a part of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that practice of like reading the Bible, it's a lost art in the Christian walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's because it's hard to wrap your brain around for people.
Yeah.
It's like, just ask him to help you.
Yeah.
Ask him, hey, this Bible, or maybe the guy on the podcast said, this word is living and it's active.
Yeah.
And it's sharp. It cuts through soul and spirit. Like, what does that even mean? Like, would you bring it alive to me as I'm faithful to try to read a little bit of it every day, or, on these things.
Yeah.
And watch that thing come alive, dude.
Yeah.
Like a movie, and it just will.
Yeah.
So everything's about connection, man. Everything is. But
yeah.
That's
cool. That's the second thing I wrote down that I appreciate about you. But is like, you always say, let's watch this like a movie. Like the messages like inspire me to like, I'm excited to read this, like to really go into it. But it's living and active.
It is.
Cool.
And it will never, ever, ever be stale.
No.
Like, that's the thing about the word. Like, when you actually eat it, it will not be stale bread.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to title this. You brought up Luke Skywalker one time. I wanted to title this episode Return of the Jedi. Because the Christian walk kind of feels like that a little bit.
Yeah.
A very confident Luke. Used to be a farm boy. His dad cut off his hand, but then he grew into this, comes back and he's just fully confident.
He's threatening Jabba the Hutt.
Hits the heart of darkness in that movie and like saves the galaxy.
Yeah, dude.
From stepping into his destiny. That's what I wanted to name it. Who knows? But
I think you should still do it.
I think we can.
It could happen.
But anyways, Star Wars has been on my mind. Anyways, well,
the things that inspire you are a lot of times rooted in the calling and purpose that the Lord has in your heart.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, man. And I've seen it for kids. I mean, you asked another exercise. It's like, hey, what as a kid was your dream?
Yeah.
What inspired you? What made your wheels turn? What made you tick?
Yeah.
And maybe it's, you're not going to be a Jedi or or James Bond or whatever, but like, what about that? When you break that stuff down, well, I like that what he did, he came from a humble beginning, but he learned this power. And that even though he was one person, he had the ability to do things behind the scenes. It could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be anything, the desires of your heart that were there. And also, what are the strategic things that the enemy sent into your life as a kid that you can look back and say, you tried to squelch something. And what was that?
Yeah. Points you in the right direction.
And how did he come?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, I've had, some crazy things like that, in my own life, but also in others, man. I was invited out. Sorry, I'm talking too much about this, but I was invited to speak to a guy's business one time. And it was like, 5 or 6 of his like management department and stuff like this. And me and a pastor that I was with, and I was actually very young. So I was probably 27 years old. And we were invited to speak to them. We were just asking them, and we're like, hey, or anybody having like supernatural experiences in these types of things, because it just went there. Because the owner of the company is like, hey, just talk to them about whatever. I want these people to get notified or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there was this guy that was one of his regional managers, works for a real big hospital system in Dallas now. And he says, when I was young, I had this gift. I would have lucid dreams where it was like I was somewhere else and my decisions mattered in the dreams. And it was like, I was actually like, it wasn't a dream. It was like I was in the spirit kind of doing these things. And, not a church guy or anything like that or whatever. But I actually ended up marrying him and his wife. But he said, but then they stopped. And something in me, I was like, hey, did something happen that scared you when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they stopped and you shut them down? And he says, yes.
And
the room was kind of quiet. And I said, was it a werewolf? Which just sounds so crazy.
Yeah.
And his face looked like, how in the heck did you know that?
Yeah.
And he goes,
he went white as a ghost.
It was. And it was just like one of those word of knowledge things,
Oh, yeah.
Plus I had experience with those things, when I was young too. And I just explained to him like, yeah, like, just some of the things Jesus said about beware of the false prophets, how they come in
as
like
wolves.
these wolves. Yeah. And they're looking to devour and stuff like that. And this type of spirit. And it's like, and got to explain like, you're gifted prophetically and you have these things, that God's given you, to help you connect to him, and also a way that you can function in this life, spiritually as a Christian, that can help you just to have success and to thrive just in life. He's a business guy, and he's a successful guy, but, especially now, but it was one of those things where like, as soon as we're just being invited to talk to these people, and I was like, was it a werewolf? You could say everybody else in the room was like, kind of turn your head, kind of like that meme where the guy looks outside of his eye like, what?
Yeah.
Are we doing that now? We're talking like that now.
Yeah.
We're going there,
Huh.
But then when this guy, his name was Jamie, he's like, it was. Then everyone's like, whoa, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
And, and it was just like, it hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, wow, this thing is real. And it was something was sent to shut me down a long time ago, and it was so cool because we were, especially me, I was young. I didn't, I was just a guy kind of tagging along, but I was just in there just popping off because it was like, plus I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see these people again. Well, they think I'm crazy, man, whatever,
It don't matter.
So werewolf, it took a little bit of gusto, but I just jumped out, man. And then another guy that was the manager there, I said the same thing. I see the Father's heart and you being restored, things that happened to your father, and see the whole team knew that him and his father had just been restored.
Oh, yeah.
Together, and hadn't been talking for years and all these things. And so then it was just like there was confidence in there if it needed to get a little crazy, or strange,
yeah.
Wow. You know what I mean? But it was a cool day, and anyways, you guys liked all that weird stuff.
Well, so talk about connecting people to the Lord, or them being aware of like, man. Oh, he's here.
Yeah.
So
but even some of the things that happened to you as a kid, even spiritual things that shut you down, or fears that came in, irrational things, OCD, and these different things. Like, man, they might have came in through trauma or something, but it was often of the design of an intelligent enemy.
Yeah.
He's not a monster. He's intelligent or just a brute, And so it's like, man, when you can understand that, and it's like, okay, so the Lord's got things within me. And I know you guys' story, so I know this stuff about you, but, I'm sure you guys could do shows about that, but, it's one of those things that really unlocks people. So that's another one that unlocks connection.
That's cool.
So.
Well, I encourage all of our listeners to take the questions that Daniel proposed and get yourself a journal and let it fly.
Yeah.
Because I think there'll be a lot of greatness uncovered in that.
Yeah. Simple. Just throw out that little invitation.
Yeah.
He'll fill it. He's got a good track record. I mean,
yeah, he does. He comes with it.
Yeah, he does.
He's a talker. Who knew? Sounds like the whole Bible knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all of our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
They knew it.
Yeah.
Well,
you're not who you thought you were.
For real.
You're far more.
Mm-hmm.
Far more valued. Far more loved by God. Your purpose and destiny is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And even the people that inspire you, they inspire you for a reason, probably.
Yeah.
Because there's aspects of their life that maybe God's put in you as well. And it's time for it to come alive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now's the best time.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us for real.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it for sure.
We were trying to be patient about bringing you on here, but
yeah, season finale.
Season finale.
But
it's a little DT.
And a good thing is like, I mean, Tyler House of Faith, we have a podcast as well with all your messages on it.
Yeah.
We have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Which we've,
neglected, but
we're
going to do more.
We got some good videos out there.
Yeah, we have some really good stuff on there.
Very good.
Well, I think when the
practical.
podcast came out, because it got so much more, it got so big quick. It went out so much. I was like, man, it's kind of like two birds, one stone. Because I'm standing up there talking anyways every Sunday, so it's like, man, it's
release
this
them.
Recording goes out,
Yeah.
so it's kind of easy. But I need to get back the Tyler Innovative Pipeline. This place is awesome. You're the director of it, so we kind of got a green light to do whatever we want. Now
you can come play
that's
like a little
about.
kid.
$50,000 studios. We can just go freaking sit in and
absolutely
do our thing. I need to make that happen.
Yeah. But the podcast, there's like over 100 episodes now, which is insane.
It's
but
so
just full of meat content, value. So
connection points.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nothing but connection points.
Well, we never end this the same way ever.
Nope, you can wrap it up though. It's good.
Yeah, you let me do it. Well, thanks for listening. It's been real. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for joining us on The Ancient Way. If you like this episode and would like to hear more, drop us a like, share with your friends, your family. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to email us at theancientwaypodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll see you next time.